Okay, something else that I feel like I need to set the record straight on. I've heard people ask, wow, you have 7 kids, like how do you do it all? And what I heard a very wise mother say one time was, I don't. There was someone who was babysitting for us, and her mom also had, I think they had 7 kids. Or more, I can't remember. But anyway, I was just dying to ask her a bunch of questions. And she was like, we do stuff differently than other people may do. Like if other people have smaller families, they might be able to get each kid a new bike, or they might be able to, and it wasn't even money related. It was just like logistically related. They might be able to do this or that or the other thing. And she's like, we just do things differently. So for example, for the longest time, my husband, he traveled for a good 5 years, and for his job. And at that time, I just didn't have it in me to sign the kids up for any sort of sports. They were like super young. But I didn't have the ability to sign the kids up for sports because I would have been dropping off one kid at a sport, but then I would have had to watch however many kids, at their practice. It's like they weren't old enough to be dropped off, but I also had all these other little ones that I couldn't manage while the other kiddos were practicing. So we just didn't do sports for the longest time. If we did do sports, it was something that more than one kid could be in at a time, and it had to be a time where Josh and I were both available. So that's one way that we worked around it. When it finally came to middle school sports is when our kiddos can start playing school sports where we live. And my oldest really wanted to play. And so we weren't able to do anything in the fall just because of our schedules. But in the winter, we were able to do school basketball. And actually, 2 of my children were able to play on the same team. So they had the same practices, same games, all of that stuff. And none of the other kids were in sports at the time. The other thing was if there was ever a time where the kids weren't practicing right after school, because we also have a 30-minute drive from where we live to where the kids go to school. So if we were already driving to pick up the kids at a certain time after school, and then we had to be back within an hour or two to take the kids back to practice and run around, I would just ask one of the parents on my kids' teams if they could take this kiddo home for a couple hours, feed them dinner, and bring them back to practice. And then I offered to still pick them up from practice. As far as asking people for help in that way, I oftentimes tried to ask somebody that mostly had older kiddos. I really have a hard time asking people who have littles for help, because I don't want them to, even though my bigs that I'm asking for help with are big, it's just a lot of pressure when you already have littles at home. So if there ever was a time where I needed somebody to pick one of my kiddos up from school, I would always look for a family that had a flexible schedule, that already was picking up from school, already was on the sports team, and preferably somebody who had older siblings. My kiddo would have been the youngest of the siblings in the group. So that's how we did sports. There was a point where, when was it? This spring, I had one kiddo playing club soccer. I had another kiddo, I guess 2 kiddos playing on a flag football league. We told the kids, yes, we will support you in playing your school sport, which is a half an hour away, plus away games and all of that. Yes, we will support you in playing your school sport, but if you want to do club sports, then they have to be local. 1 or 2 years ago, we tried to do a flag football league with their friends from school. But again, it was like a half an hour away, and so we would go and pick the kids up from school, come home, have dinner, and then one of the parents had to go out and take the kids to practice while the other one had to like manage everybody else at home and do bedtime all at home. That was pretty stressful. So we made a new thing moving forward that if you're going to play club sports, anything that wasn't a school sport, then it had to be local, like close to where we lived. It wasn't necessarily with school friends, but like they could still play sports and get to know some new people. So I hope that helps. We are a family of 9. My husband and I have 7 children together, and ranging right now from 2 years old to 12 years old. And when it comes to sports and family rhythms and all of those things, we initially thought, no, we don't need to put our kids in sports because that'll just split up the family in 10 different directions. And that what kind of family time do you get when everybody's split up that much? But also we realized, long term, we want our kids to be fit and active for the rest of their lives. And playing youth sports is a great way to build confidence, athleticism, have a coach that cares about them, that can speak life into them. And yeah, we just want to set them up long term to have fit and healthy lifestyles, and I think that starts when they're young. So and we also have the ability right now in our schedule as entrepreneurs. We have that flexibility to put them into sports, and when there was a conflict of trying to be in 3 places at once, I think one of us would stay home to put the little kids to bed. One of us would go, do we have a school concert or something? I don't remember. Or maybe it was one of the sports. But then I would ask my parents if they could just pick up one of my kiddos from practice. So it was not very often that we had to ask to do that. But if we had to be at 3 places at once, we just try to come up with creative solutions. Like, how can we make this work? I think there was even one time where, Josh and I had to split it up. I think I stayed home with the kids. He was going to make the run for sports practices. But we just talked to the soccer coach, hey, we have to be at 2 places at once. Would you mind if we picked, this kiddo up after we pick up this round of kids? And it's 50 minutes in between. Could you wait with him? And the coach was fine with it. He was yeah, no problem. So anyway, it's always good to ask for help. You don't have to be embarrassed about it. I know I would help someone else if they needed help and I could do it. So yeah, that's just how we do sports with a large family.